You've got questions, we've got answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box, where trauma-trained therapists tackle real questions from real people. I'm your host, Lindsay Schiss, bringing you grounded insights you can actually use, brought to you by Therapy Utah. Back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your pressing mental health questions. So write in, ask us what is on your mind. And if you're too embarrassed to ask for yourself, just ask for a friend. We're here to answer your questions. Today I have with me Sway Chavez. Is that how I say your last name?
Chavez, yep.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for being with us, Sway. It's been a while, so it's awesome to have you back.
Thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be back.
It's so good.
Yeah, life is busy right now, so it's been hard to be back, but
we're lucky to have you. You're a great resource, and I love your energy. The last time you were on, it was fun to have you, so I'm excited to have you back.
Thanks.
Tell us and tell our listeners a little bit about you.
So I am a therapist here at Therapy Utah. This is my second career. I do this because I absolutely love it. Like, I love this work. I come out of sessions realizing like I really get to do this. And it's fun. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, yeah, there's not very many people that are crazy enough to sit in this chair all day long and actually do this work. I'm just one of them, right? So I have a passion for it. I love if I can help anybody in their healing process, whatever that looks like, that's what I'm all about. And the thing I love about our clinic is that there's, as far as I can tell, really zero ego amongst therapists. We just want healing for our clients. So if that means I hand them off to somebody else in our clinic because they're a better fit, we just do it. Or outside of the clinic, it doesn't matter to us. We just are here to do the healing work and help people along that path.
I love that. And I would agree with you. I think we have some of the best clinicians in the state. I would say even more like the country. They are amazing clinicians. And I think what you just said is really true. Like the therapists here at Therapy Utah are so committed to healing. And that is the goal. It is not about numbers or looking better or beatings. It is genuine, and it's pretty amazing.
It is.
So
I fell into a good group here, so I'm happy to be here.
And you're one of them, so it's awesome.
I just enjoy the work, so
it's very cool.
Thanks.
Well, today we're going to talk about a topic that is a challenge for people, and it's one that people often deal with quietly, and that can be one that can be shameful for people. And so I'm actually really glad this listener wrote in and that we're going to be talking about sexual addiction today.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be talking, I'm going to just read the question and then we'll dive in.
Okay.
Here's the question. I've been in recovery from sexual addiction for a few months now, but I still feel like I'm figuring things out. What does recovery actually look like over time? Mm-hmm. So I want to just start, first of all, not knowing where our listeners are at with this, but let's talk about, first of all, what is addiction? Like we know bad behaviors or behaviors, I shouldn't say bad, but behaviors that don't align with our value system.
Yes.
How do you differentiate between those and addictive behaviors?
I think it's a great question. So I typically, when I work with people who are dealing with compulsive sexual behavior or really almost any addictive behavior, I start with this metaphor of where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I think I first heard that from my good friend Steve Shields, but I know it's around in the community. So what does that actually mean? When we think of addiction, we think that there's this fire, or that there's this, that the addictive behavior itself is the fire, when in reality, it's just the smoke. And the fire is the stuff that's causing the addictive behavior. In other words, it's fueled, the behaviors are fueled by something deeper, whether that's a need, a desire, a want that is going unfulfilled within self.
Yeah. And you know what I appreciate is I think sometimes we stay so much just in the behaviors and we go, okay, let's figure out this behavior and don't do this and do this. instead of going, wait, what's really going on underneath? Where is the pain? Where is the shame?
Right.
Because that's where the real work happens. The behaviors, yes, are important, but it's really the pain that's informing the behavior, right?
Well, and I think that actually really speaks to our listeners' question, right? It's, what is the long-term recovery about, right? Or how do we do this long-term? Because I tend to categorize recovery work, right? Addictive recovery work in two different stages. Stage 1, stage 2, or long-term. And in stage 1 is all about putting guardrails in place, building safety, especially if you're in relationship and there's been some betrayal trauma or relational trauma there. But building these guardrails around the behaviors that are no longer serving you or have become unmanageable, as they say in 12-step, right? And then we focus on, in the long term, what are the we don't focus so much on the behavior as going in and figuring out core values and how we're acting outside of those core values.
Okay, I love that. So it's understanding our values, going back to what matters to me, who am I as a person, and then am I behaving in congruence with those values?
Early recovery is all about staying safe. Long-term is about becoming someone new.
Okay. So would you call it, let's just say this, and maybe it's semantics, but would you call it recovery or sobriety? Like if someone has been actively using,
Great
I can
question.
see you're ready.
Yes.
Tell me, because if someone's actively using sexual, like let's say they're using pornography and they're using it in a way that is not aligned with their values, and they stop using it, what is the difference between I'm not using it, so I'm sober, I'm not using, or I'm now recovered, or I'm in recovery? Tell me.
So that's a really great question. So number one, the first thing I want to talk about is, for some people, like I know we're talking about pornography right now, but like for some people that actually fits in their value system.
That's right.
And it's not causing emotional, relational, financial distress, right? And that fits in their value system. Me personally, and just with what I mostly work with here in the clinic, typically it becomes an issue relationally or in some way, shape, or form eventually, right?
For sure.
Now, I say that because I don't necessarily want to put everybody that uses pornography in this compulsive sexual addictive box, right? So that's one thing. And then the second part of your question, remind me that again.
Like, what is the difference? We're recovery versus sobriety.
Sobriety. Thank you. Yeah. So we often think that sobriety, when we're sober, like that just means that, internally we're healthy and things are good. When in recovery circles, we can call that white knuckling, where we're just holding on for dear life. And yet all somebody can think about is getting the next hit. How do I satisfy that thing? How do I get that need met, right? I often talk about, when we won't go way into this, how in polyvagal theory, or like this nervous system regulation, what we're doing is when we get activated and we have a deep need or desire that is going unmet, I call it shortchanging the system. In other words, I will use the behavior to shortchange or get that need met and drop out of my natural regulating rhythm. In other words, am I doing the deep work of figuring out what's going on internally and the need that I have, right? Because if I can identify what that is and go get it met in a healthy way, then I'm not shortchanging that system. But by engaging in the behavior, I shortchange it, and I just go, I don't actually know what my need is. And
You're just trying to get rid of this discomfort.
Right.
Yes.
So that's what recovery looks like. Recovery looks like being able to go in, internalize and recognize what my needs are, that I'm wanting to reach out to this behavior that has in many instances destroyed my life or destroyed other people's lives that no longer actually serves me. And now I get to figure out, oh, right now in this moment, I don't feel like I'm enough for men, right? I'm generally speaking, we deal with, men tend to deal with this more than women do. That does not mean that women do not have, issues with this as well.
Sure.
But within men, they have this deep need to feel like they're enough, like they have what it takes, and to feel wanted and desired. Women have similar desires as well, but that's typically the question that we're trying to get answered deeply within ourselves. And guess what pornography does? It tells us that I have what it takes because it never says no. It tells us that I am enough because, again, it doesn't say no. And it tells me in a way that I'm wanted or desired. Right?
Gosh, I love those three questions. So am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
Am I desirable? And then what's the third one?
Am I desired?
Or am I
right?
desired?
Yeah,
Okay.
or wanted, right?
Or wanted. Okay.
And do I have what it takes?
And do I have what it takes? That's the other one.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I stole those straight from John Eldredge, right? In his book, Wild at Heart, he talks about those. And that's a Christian book, but regardless of where it comes from, almost every man that I meet has those deep questions that he's asking within himself. Yeah. And we take those questions to lots of different places, right? So when we talk about this long-term or, recovery type of a thing, we're trying to identify the core values and needs that we have and how we go and get those met in a way that is healthy for us and our relationships around us.
Yeah. It's such a great, first of all, those questions. I hope everyone will take note on that. Am I enough? Am I desired? And do I have what it takes? Because again, whether you're a man or a woman, like you said, the context is a little bit different, but we all are asking ourselves those questions. And that pornography usage is one of those, that's a medium to kind of manage that, but in a very short-changed way, as you were saying, right? Yeah. Because it never says no, it doesn't deny. And so, it meets check, meets those needs.
And the bottom line is it's not reality.
Right.
Right. And I understand, right? Like you deeply want those questions answered, but we go to a place that isn't real to get them met. So they don't last. That place doesn't last. And we can do the same in our relationships and then engage in codependence, where I am fully dependent on somebody else to tell me that I'm okay, right? If I go to my fiance and keep asking her the question, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? All of a sudden I give her all the power to invalidate me and say, no, you don't. Because here's the honest truth. I will never be enough for her, and she will never be enough for me to get those questions met. Those have to be answered from within self, right? They have to be answered from a deep place of knowing yourself, and that validation has to come from within.
Okay, I love that, and I couldn't agree more, because I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that are seeking validation from so many things, right? Is it consuming?
Right.
And okay, if I get enough things, if I drive the right car, if the right people I'm friends with, then maybe that will make me enough, right?
Yeah.
Or my spouse, if they desire me, or if they are whatever. But the truth is, it's never going to be enough.
No.
And so how would you tell our listeners that they go about understanding the work of self-validation?
Yeah. That is
the $1 million question.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question, right? Because it's, like even as a therapist, somebody who does this day in and day out, teaches it, helps people try and understand it. Do you think I don't still go to my fiance with that same question from time to time and then realize that I'm doing it again? No, I'm a human and I still do that, right? But then it gives me an opportunity to say like, oh, I've been here before, right? I know what I'm actually asking, right? And it gives me an opportunity to tap into authentic Sway and say, hey, buddy, do I actually have what it takes, right? And for me, in my context, right, being Christian, right, like that's another conversation with God, right? So with my Christian clients, that's another piece that we tend to bring in, right, is how does God fit into that for you? But that doesn't always have to be the case, right? Like that deep, authentic version of yourself, the one that is becoming, not just, right, like the one that you currently are or whatever, that knowing that that's where you're going, that's the one we have to end up relying on for that validation of like, you know what? I am doing the best that I can, and I'm not always going to get it right. One thing about recovery in general is a willingness. And I think this is just a general therapeutic theme that I have noticed. If I am willing to look in within myself and willing to admit when I'm wrong, willing, again, just having a willingness to look for opportunities for change, that opens me up to a whole new world. And then if I'm willing to do the repair, because I'm going to get it wrong. I'm inevitably going to get something wrong. I'm going to get something wrong with a client at some point. I'm going to get something wrong in my relationships. I'm going to raise my kid wrong. I can't tell you how many times I have to go to my kid and be like, hey, bug, I messed up and I'm sorry. That was not okay for me to talk to you that way or to, you know what I mean? Like work with you in that way. Right? That is what long-term recovery really looks like, is am I willing to do the work and admit when I'm wrong, and then willing to do the repair that I need to within self and within any relationship I may have damaged in that process.
What a great way to look at it. Am I willing to do the work that accompanies that?
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes the barrier to entry is, boy, it is work, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It is work. I mean, even you saying, I come to my kids over and over and I say, gosh, where did I show up wrong? I'm so sorry. I didn't handle that right. I mean, that takes a level of humility and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, yeah, here we go again. Did it again. Right. And instead of going into shame about it, like here, I'm a crappy father. I did it again, but looking and saying, you know what? I want to clean it up. I want to do better.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, the work that you're committed to, right? As a therapist and in helping people in recovery is the willingness to say, I'm wrong. And what do I need to do to clean it up? What's the repair work like?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really hard for most people that are dealing with compulsive sexual behavior, because there is so much shame built into it already. It's just one of those things that's really hard to say, like, hi, I'm Sway and I'm an addict, right? Especially early on, right? Because it feels like the whole world is going to crumble if you say those words, right? And again, that's part of that early piece of recovery, is recognizing, hey, there's an issue here and it's not working for me. Like I just have to take a look in the mirror and say, nope, that's not working.
And I just want to take a moment to say how much courage that takes. And sitting with men in my office and that are working through this, I mean, it is a tremendous amount of courage, because it's something that has been hidden for so long and so shameful for so many reasons, right?
Well, and I was going to say even more so I think it's even more shaming for women.
For women, 100%.
It is so
100%.
much harder, right? Because men kind of get this rap where it's just like, oh, men just, men are men or whatever kind
Yep.
of thing, which isn't fair or true, but that's kind of the rap that they get. So for women, it's even more shaming to
Sure.
be able to bring that up.
100%. And again, when I think about this, I think it is sometimes the things that are in the recesses of our heart that we have hidden because we're afraid that, oh, if you knew this, will you love me? Am I
Right.
enough? Am I desired? I mean, I think it taps on those questions
Yes.
and when people actually expose it, they're asking those questions. Like, okay, when you know all of this, will you still love me? I mean,
Right.
that is talk about vulnerability.
Right.
I mean, that is the crux of vulnerability.
And that's why, long-term recovery cannot rely on others accepting you for who you are or who you are not. We have a good friend, Steve Shields, right? And he
Yeah.
started this podcast, Unashamed and Afraid. For all you who are listening to this one, it's a great podcast. They mostly do stories, right, about people who've dealt with this. And one of the things that the reason that they have that moniker, Unashamed, Unafraid, is because of this idea that, and I'll tap into rapper Steve's vibes, right? And that I'll quote Lecrae, who is a Christian rap artist. Lecrae says, "If you live for their acceptance, you'll die by their rejection."
Ooh, so good.
Right? Like, I just
So
love that
good.
line. And it's so true, especially in recovery work. If you are living for others' acceptance, right? If that's where your well of validation comes from, you will die by that rejection. That's why men in these situations, or anybody in this situation, the approval of their spouse is so critical to them because they put that on can you accept me? And oftentimes, because the spouse is human, they don't have it in them because of the stuff that they're going through.
Yes.
Right? So again, that long term has to rely on that place within yourself. It can't come from anywhere else.
And again, that is a skill and a muscle that often is not developed,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, it's how do we do it? It's uncomfortable. And then we've shortchanged our way. So
Right.
doing that work, that deep work of, am I enough? Do I believe I'm enough and that I matter and that I'm worthy of love and belonging because of just who I am?
Right.
I mean, that's the question, right? Over and over that we're asking. And, I love that reminder of, if you live for their acceptance, you will die by their rejection versus, no, I'm doing this for me, right? I think of, in fact, I had a client last week that was saying, I'm doing this for my husband, period. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my husband. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. And it's interesting because when she first came, she was very clear. I need to do some work around this. I've got to do some work. But then when the rubber hit the road and it got uncomfortable, it was like, maybe this is actually for him. And I said, we really got to talking and it was like, actually, remember, why are you here? Why are you here? It's because you want to show up differently. You want to behave differently.
Right.
And again, it's a really uncomfortable process, right?
Yeah.
So to getting back to like, no, this is not about others. This is about self.
Yeah.
This is about you.
I go back to that, looking at yourself in the mirror. As you say that image keeps coming up in my mind, right? And I'll just share a little personal story, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So in 2022, I had to look at myself in the mirror from a physical standpoint. I am a whopping 5'3", and at the time I weighed 305 pounds. And I thought to myself, I don't know what's going on. Went into the doctor, find out I have diabetes, right? There's a whole biological issue, right? So I'm like, okay, so what do I have to do, right? And I started on the GLP-1s, ended up doing the gastric bypass, right? Doing all these things. And then I have become a total freakazoid about the gym.
Yes.
Like,
I know you love the gym. I know this about you, Sway.
like up until recently, right now with some life things that are really busy, but up until recently, I was doing 6 days a week, right? Which felt good and was healthy for me. And right now I'm taking a break, right? Recognizing life is chaotic and I've got to take a pause, right? Again, part of the deeper work of saying like, I've got to find places where things are and aren't working right now for me.
Sure.
Right. And so, and this all goes to the same point. You can go to the gym and exercise in a particular way for weeks, months, and years, right? Let's just say my biceps respond really well to sitting bicep curls, right? And they might respond to that well for years. And then all of a sudden,
Until they don't.
They don't. And that is kind of the crux of recovery work as well. All of a sudden, I need to change something within the work that I'm doing, right? I know guys who've gone to 12-step for 5, 8 years, and all of a sudden, guess what no longer works for them in their recovery? 12-step. I'm not saying stop going to 12-step, right?
Sure.
But like that muscle is no longer responding to that. I'm no longer getting the camaraderie, the brotherhood, whatever it is that I'm getting out of 12-step. So I need to shift and change that. And that is the long-term work. What is working? What isn't? And how do I shift and change that? Am I willing, going back to the willingness, to always be constantly looking myself in the mirror and saying, that's working or that's not working for me anymore. And it's okay that things shift and change over time. And being able to go back within and say, that doesn't change who I am. Just because I stopped going to 12-step, just because the therapy that I was doing isn't working anymore and I'm going to shift and try a different therapy, or I'm going to take a break from therapy, or, right? And I know that's crazy. A therapist sitting here saying like, wait, break from therapy? No. Sway's favorite day is when he gets to graduate a client.
That's right. I agree.
I don't want you here any longer than I do. I'm just that crazy person that likes to be in this chair. Like I said, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, it's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, what served me is no longer serving me, right? It's that same principle, but just an evolved principle of saying, okay, I've used in a way that is not serving my value system. Okay, now I'm in recovery and I've figured out whatever it is, right? 12 steps, something else that's worked. Okay, but now it's not working. So what I'm hearing is that there's an evolution that we really need to be honest about, that as people are in recovery, that they are continually looking and saying, is it serving me? Is it continuing to do what I need it to do? And if not, then I gotta go back to the drawing board again and again. And I think whether it's recovery or life, we're doing that with whatever it is. If it's a muscle we're working, we have to keep going back and saying, okay, now it's actually not working anymore. And dang it, I love sitting while doing bicep curls. That was the best. But like, I can't do that anymore because it's not responding. So going back, and again, that's some discomfort. We go back and it's like, oh man, I knew exactly where to sit in the weight room and I knew the correct weight. Now I have to go back and start again. Same principle, but again, recognizing, okay, there's adaptations that happen and we have to keep really changing to make sure we're on top of it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Such a great reminder.
Yeah. And it just goes, like you said, it goes back to those core values. As those are kind of the North Star in recovery, finding out those things that make you you and the things that are just non-negotiable for you, right? Finding out and discovering those core values is absolutely pivotal, because then you can always check your behavior, your whatever is going on in your life against that value. Does this fit within that value set?
That's right. And again, getting clear about your values too. What matters to you? Who are you as a person? I mean, I think so much work in therapy needs to begin with values work.
Yes.
Just who are you as a person? What matters to you? And let's go back to the drawing board, because when you're living in congruence with that, okay, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. We're in lockstep.
Right.
When who I am and who I want to be and how I'm showing up are not congruent, I'm not going to be okay internally.
Yeah.
Right. So
totally. And that, in fact, every single one of my first sessions, we get out what we call value pillows, and we
I love the value pillows.
Right. We say, values and behaviors are not in alignment, and that distance between the two is in therapy speech what we call cognitive dissonance, right? But in other words, these are not in alignment, and so my heart and my mind, those 18 inches, can't connect.
Yep.
They're 2 miles apart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's getting congruent with heart and mind and behavior, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, it's easy to sit here and talk about it, just you and I, right? Actually doing the work is, and I won't share too much here, but like my story is out there for the world to hear.
Yeah.
Unashamed, Unafraid, episode 13, everybody can hear it, right? Doing that actual work in my own life and in recovery, hardest thing ever. And 100% worth it.
Can you tell us why?
There is a freedom. In fact, I think I say it in the episode. I used to live my life with rot gut. Like just life, when I walked around, there was just rot in my gut all the time about everything. And since recovery, my life is just free. My life is congruent. I know when I make mistakes, I just take ownership and I keep moving forward. And so is life perfect? No. Life is chaos, but it's freeing, and just there is a lightness and levity, and I just know things are going to work out because, again, I just have a willingness now to do what I need to do to fix the things that aren't working in my life and to get congruent with myself.
And like, that's worth all the hard work.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And all of the things that came with that hard work.
It's awesome.
So
living a life of integrity, this is living a life of integrity and a life of honesty and congruence with your values.
Yeah.
Like, right? You stand up in your integrity. This is who I am. And the world can see it, right? And you're not hiding. You're not, when you talk about that what'd you call it? Rock gut?
Rot gut.
Rot gut. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that to me says shame.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
I am hiding. I am shameful about my behavior. And so it manifests in our body.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Big time.
But when you now live like, no, I stand in my integrity. This is who I am. And I live in my values. Then you can go, yeah, and I'm not perfect. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
And I make mistakes, and it's okay.
That's where I was going to go is like, I'm human. I still make mistakes.
That's right.
Right. And that's the other thing about long-term recovery. Everybody thinks that just equals automatic, perfect sobriety.
No.
I know guys who have been sober for 15 years. Right. I know guys that have been sober for 5 and are just holding on for dear life. It's just white as can be. And I'm like, cool, you have some really awesome sobriety. And my buddy over here, Dave, or whatever his name is 20 days sober, but he's living in freedom and in truth and integrity because he's not constantly thinking about it. It's not compulsive. It's not always on his mind, right? So again, obviously a big piece is you do want that sobriety.
Sure.
That should be the byproduct, but it's that freedom and that ability to live within, because at the end of the day, who do I have to live with?
You.
Myself, and that's it.
Period. Yep.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you get to live with you, and you get to look yourself in the mirror and say, yep, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of how I'm showing up today, or I'm not. And we get honest about that.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. Well, if you're listening and you are in recovery, the fact that those questions are being asked, show your courage and show your willingness to look at yourself in the mirror. So thank you for this listener for asking that very vulnerable, honest question. And Sway, thank you so much for being here. What a great discussion. And really, I love the reminder of being honest, living in your values, standing up in your integrity, and messing up and showing up again and again and again.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's the key.
It's a great reminder. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful. For all of you listening, we hope this was an insightful. We know this discussion is one that many people carry in the quiet recesses of their heart. So please share it if it can help somebody you love. I know it can. And until next time, take care. That's a wrap for today on the Therapist Question Box. I'm Lindsay Schiss. Thanks for listening. And remember, every question you ask is an opportunity to learn and grow. Brought to you by Therapy Utah.
Hey, this is Kathy Kinghorn. I'm an owner at Therapy Utah. If you'd like to book with one of our trauma-trained therapists, go to www.therapyutah.org. Thanks for listening.